A while ago, I promised I'd highlight the shameful difference between the prices of new cars in mainland Europe and Britain.
You see, car makers over here are trying to tuck us up. A Ford Escort costs 45% more in the UK than it does across the pond. Likewise, a Peugeot 306, 43%, a BMW 316, 30%. Even if you buy a humble Ford Fiesta, you will be paying 44% more than your continental counterpart, and that just isn't fair.
I promised to expose the car manufacturer's price rigging and show you how to save a shed-load of money on your next new right-hand drive motor.
Which is why I'm off to Brussels, to ask, no, to insist that the European Commission gets heavy, that it reads these billion-dollar car companies the Riot Act, because frankly, they're taking the wee-wee.
Since our first look at importing cars from Europe, the European Commission has fined Volkswagen £68 million for preventing German buyers from buying cheaper cars in Italy. And even more of you have had a crack yourselves. You've come up against the usual excuses, but by being tenacious, some of you have come home with some very cheap cars.
And not giving up is what it's all about. Car makers know that it's illegal to stop you buying a car in Europe. So what they do instead is they get dealers to throw obstacles in your way, hoping you'll just walk away and give the whole thing up. But, and I promise you this, as long as you don't throw in the towel, you will save yourself a bundle.
Mark Murley of Glasgow wanted a Land Rover Discovery. By going to Belgium, he saved, are you sitting down, 10 grand.
It started last year. I was on holiday in the States and noticed that European cars, very heavily specified, were 30 to 40% cheaper than cars in the UK. When I got home, I contacted other European dealers to try and find out if that was true in the rest of Europe, and to a great extent it was. When I asked for quotes, unfortunately they said they can't supply British. They were willing to quote but wouldn't take it any further in many cases. To overcome this, I'm lucky in that I've got a family member who lives in Belgium. So I managed to get a quote through her and was able to order, travelling out to pay a deposit and make sure the specification was correct, and then collecting my car 3 months later. I saved £10,000 on a car that lists in the UK at £32,000 with the extras I put on it.
Michael Thomas of Oxford fancied a Volvo V70. He went to Holland and saved himself £7,500.
I was very surprised about how easy it was, in fact, to import a car from the continent. The car we imported came from Holland, and I dealt in fact with Volvo directly. They made life incredibly easy for me. They delivered the car in the specified time, which was 4 to 6 weeks, a car that is the full UK specification, obviously right-hand drive, right-hand headlights. They, for a small fee, arranged the export plates. Then it was just a case of going, picking up the car, getting it back here, and in the process saving myself £7,500.
But don't think it's always easy. Roger Lamin of Northampton had a hard time saving 5 grand on an Audi A4 he bought in Cologne.
Although I saved £5,000, the experience itself was somewhat traumatic at times. Prices changed. From a German spec was different to a UK spec, and they increased the prices. Within those 6 months, I had no or very little communication from the dealership, and I felt very concerned at times as to whether I was going to get the car or not. I would do it again. The 3 things I learnt are A, getting the money for the VAT before you travel out. B, make sure you got the English specification prices. And finally, last but not least, find the dealership that speaks English.
So here we are, Brussels, capital of European democracy. I'm off to the European Commission to find someone with some serious juice.
And I wasn't having any bureaucratic flannel either. I came armed with a file of the letters you've been sending to us at Top Gear, ready to hand them over to the European Commission investigators.
We have made an inspection in the premises of Opel in the Netherlands and of Mercedes in 4 other countries, and we have collected documents. We are still about to analyze them, and we will see whether we can establish an infringement or whether we can't.
And you're going to carry on going heavy on these people to make sure they get the job done?
Yes, we will of course use all the legal instruments we have to enforce this obligation.
I think it is the case as well that right-hand drive cars are being sold in mainland Europe. We have a figure from one manufacturer which shows that 7% of their sales in the Netherlands alone are right-hand drive cars to British consumers.
But there are some car manufacturers who don't want to make it easy for you. Last week, the Sunday Times approached a number of car makers. Their reporters posed as businessmen, wanting to set up a retail park close to the entrance to the Channel Tunnel in France. They said they wanted to sell right-hand drive cars at cheaper continental prices. These are some of the reactions.
Those who are strong in Britain, I would expect, would be very loath to talk to you about having one right next door to the Channel. Yeah. Because they would have two things. One, their profit would be hit like mad, and two, if there are still dealer bodies in the current franchise system, they'd have a revolution. I would be very surprised that anybody, as I say, apart from those who may be really weak in the British market, who would be running there. That would be like turkeys voting for Christmas.
I think all of the manufacturers, and I will speak only for Peugeot, we are very satisfied with this situation because the gross margin in the Britain market is very comfortable for us. Yeah. Peugeot will never sell a right-hand drive car in France.
Sure. I mean, if you install a right-hand drive center in France just to sell right-hand drive cars, it would be a problem for sure.
When we spoke to them, Fiat said they stick to the law and won't stop UK buyers buying right-hand drive cars abroad. Nissan came up with the usual arguments about the strong pound, difference in spec and warranty, and like Fiat, they say their prices are set by bigger players in the British market. So it looks like it might be a while before buying cars is as easy as buying duty-free. But if you're determined and prepared to take the trouble, you can still save yourself a bundle. Here is our lightning guide. First, choose your country. At the moment, Portugal and Holland have the cheapest cars. Next, get a list of dealers in your chosen country from the manufacturer in Britain. Then it's time for a slog on the phone. Ring dealers to find out if they'll supply you with right-hand drive. Better still, go yourself and talk eye to eye. Make sure you and the dealer understand the exact UK spec, and don't forget to work out how much you'll be saving. Get the exact price, spec and delivery time in writing. Watch they don't hit you with a hidden supplement for right-hand drive. Buy your money in advance in a foreign currency draft to get the best exchange rate. Do it soon lest the pound should slip. Send your dealer a deposit, anything between 20 and 50%. Make sure they confirm your order and receipt of your deposit in writing. Then you wait. At worst, it could be a nail-biting 9 months before your car is actually ready. Get transit plates from your dealer, plus a certificate of conformity to EU regulations. Get your dealer to arrange transit insurance to drive the car home. If he won't, there are brokers in England who will. Then it's time to head for home and make sure you keep all your travel receipts. Once you're back in Blighty, go smartly to Customs and Excise and pay your VAT, 17.5% on the price you paid. Go to your nearest local vehicle licensing office to register and tax the car. And then, finally, the best bit, affix number plates and tax disc and drive away.
And here's the thought. As long as we keep hammering away at these car manufacturers, prices of new cars will inevitably come down. They're far, far too expensive here in the first place. And that means we won't have to go across the channel to buy them. And I, for one, can't wait.